Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson. Welcome back to all those of you who are already subscribers to the channel. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews like the one coming right now. A special guest back on the show. His accolades include a Division II national championship in wrestling, and now he's an undefeated amateur 1-0 MMA fighter. He is the one, the only Luke, the Martian Martin. Welcome to the show, sir.
Nice. Great intro, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. I
Hey,
appreciate
champ,
you having me on, man.
I'm excited to have you back on the show. I got to have you on before and after your amateur debut, which was at Bayfront Brawl back in November of 2023. And now you're going to be fighting in Kentucky for New Line Cagefighting, their 22nd event, New Line Cagefighting 22, 6 days from now. So first off, not only thanks for coming on the show, but how is Fight Week going? Fight Week is a whole different world for fighters. Your weight cut, trying to still do things you need to do with not overexerting, kind of peaking and doing all that. So how's it going 6 days out from your fight?
I feel good. The weight's coming down nice. It's nice having Anthony Hogeback coming down there with me too. So we're kind of on the same page of everything. And plus, I do a pretty good job of listening to my body and recovering well. And fight week, it's here. Let's go. I'm ready.
Now, this is actually something that's come up a couple times. Amateur MMA, sometimes depending on the state, still has same-day weigh-ins. Is Kentucky a same-day weigh-in or night before?
Night before.
And this is probably the easiest question you'll answer. How much better is it for you, who used to have to do same-day weigh-ins, wrestle, and then in tournaments, having to sometimes weigh in throughout the tournament, which is a thing that wrestlers do. Do you feel the big difference in your body? How much more confident are you in a weight cut when you know you'll get the 24 hours of recovery?
When I was wrestling 141, I had some trouble like in a couple tournaments. I always made weight, but keeping my weight down from like Friday to Saturday. And then that Saturday, like you weigh in and then you have an hour and then you're wrestling like in the quarterfinals or the semifinals or whatever it is. And it's always a hard match. So, it's definitely a bit of an adjustment. Having all that time before weigh-ins, like my fight in November, I can't remember how long it was, but it wasn't a whole day before. And that felt natural. Like I kind of just felt natural to me. So this day before weigh-in thing is going to be a little bit different, but I'll be good. I'll be able to put some weight back on after the weigh-ins and feel good going into the cage.
I think that's a big advantage wrestlers have, not just in physically knowing how to cut weight, but the fact that in the wrestling world, you're unfortunately oftentimes wrestling depleted, whereas in MMA, even if you do have a hard weight cut, and you do have to be smart about it. We know DC Cormier back when he was in the UFC had some bad weight cuts to the point where he was in the hospital and couldn't fight. Yeah, obviously that you got to get figured out, and he did. But what I was getting to is the idea that you're only cutting weight 4, maybe 5 times a year if you're fighting quite often. And I think that's even why in the UFC level, why there's sometimes fighters will fly around the world. Every once in a while they do this, get paid to be a backup. Iron Mike Chandler did this a while ago when he flew to Abu Dhabi. And obviously a weight cut isn't great, and oftentimes they're not used. But I can imagine a UFC caliber fighter's like, hey, I can do this 5, 6 times a year versus sometimes 4 or 5 times a month when you're wrestling. So makes a big difference. And we just had MMA Fancast. I was honored to have a new Virginia state champ in Cross Cassidy on the show, and he was talking about in high school, which is pretty rare, I think, wrestling a little above where his natural weight is. He's about 5, 6 pounds under who he's wrestling because he doesn't really cut a lot of weight and feels like in high school he's giving up weight, but he feels like it helps him wrestle better. So I'm curious whether or not at some point, because I know you were a high school champ, at some point whether or not high school will start while still weight cutting, maybe still try to be more athletic and energetic. So it's always interesting the ups and downs of wrestling. Back to you though. Once you beat Caleb Adam Arzwitsky, great last name. Once you beat Caleb Adams something, what did you learn from that? What have you been working on without giving game plan away? And then we'll start shifting to Sheldon Starcher, your opponent.
Well, I learned that I can be comfortable with my hands.
Mhm.
I felt good with my hands in that fight. I felt good with feints. I felt good with my takedowns. I felt good with my hands. I honestly I just learned that like I'm where I'm supposed to be. Um, I feel good in the cage. I feel comfortable in the cage. I didn't really get nervous. Like I didn't feel anything like in the back. Um, I didn't feel anything walking out. Um, I just felt like it just felt normal to me. It felt natural. I guess if I had to pick one thing that I learned is that I can let my hands fly. I hit him pretty hard, a number of times and he stayed in front of me. So salute to him. But I got comfortable with my hands in that fight. So I'm ready to go for this one.
It must feel great to feel like you found where you're supposed to be. A buddy of yours, a former WU Mountaineer Wrestling teammate, Lucas the Sniper Siebert, obviously went 5-0 as an amateur and now 1-0 as a pro. And that's something that he has shared the whole time, not just to me, but to anybody that he talks to, that once he graduated and started training for only 3 months at various gyms and Stout, he felt like he had found what he's supposed to be doing. And of course, now he's on this tear. Let's talk a little bit about that because you mentioned Hound Dog, Anthony Hogaback, who's a friend of the show, who's come on several times. He's a great guy. Obviously, Lucas the Sniper Siebert. What's it like having seen what Lucas has done? I know he had at least a hand inviting you up to Stout Pittsburgh once you were no longer at Fairmont State after winning the national title a couple years ago at Fairmont State. So, what's it been like being arguably kind of following, hate to say in his footsteps, but at least his path as far as a Division I, Division II wrestler, headed in stout, training really well. Sniper also showed off his hands in his debut. I called his debut fight, showed off his hands. You showed off your hands. Tall, rangy wrestler, tall, rangy wrestler. What's it like training at stout and then also specifically kind of following the path that Siebert's been on?
Uh, he's he's a trailblazer. Um, he's good for me to like um follow in his footsteps. It's nice that he's kind of doing this stuff like right just ahead of me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like he's a good person for me to like look at and like analyze the things that he's doing, like how he's living his life, how he's training, when he's training. Kind of like Max said, just Lucas is like a trailblazer. He's like he sets the blueprint for us, and we kind of just keep going. And I remember being in college at West Virginia with Lucas and with Josh Ramirez, and we were all friends and stuff. And a lot of times we would talk about like fighting, like we would talk about like MMA, like maybe I'll do MMA, maybe I'll fight, maybe we'll all fight, maybe we'll all be in the UFC. Like we would have those conversations, and now to like see it like to see it like come to life almost is great. And I'm glad that he is doing his thing right now. I'm as happy for him as I can be for anybody. I love the kid. He's great. I love him. He he pours his heart and soul into this stuff. He goes hard, and I respect that. And he's a great friend.
Yeah, and it's also, we've talked about it a lot on MMA Fancast. People that watch this shall hopefully subscribe. Hear a lot that 247 Fighting Championships has an annual award show, which is thousands of people vote. It's growing. It's really cool. But the gym that you train at, that's your home gym, thanks to Lucas and others, of course, is the two-time Gym of the Year and the two-time Coaches of the Year. And there's also other incredible gyms, the Mat Factory, the Academy. There's a lot of great gyms in Pittsburgh, a lot of cross training, and it's really a family of Pittsburgh versus the world. But it's got to feel good for you to be, right there as one of the up and comers out of Stout, along with, like you mentioned, Max Jarrow, who's a young fighter who's now 2-0, Anthony Hogaback, and a bunch of others, a couple early pros as well, in addition to Lucas. Let's talk about Sheldon Starcher. I've seen him fight. He's a 2-2 guy, so technically in amateur MMA fights, he's had four times the amount of fights as you have, because you're coming in 1-0, he's coming in 2-2. What makes Sheldon Starcher a good a person that you're ready to jump in against? And what are your thoughts on him as an opponent? Because you're 6 days away. Trying to think, he's on a he's flip flopped. He's lost one, won one, lost one, won one. That's kind of what he's been doing. So, what are your thoughts on him? And what made you say yes to this fight?
Um, they offered me him in like December, and I said yeah. And it was for this fight, but I told him I wanted to wait because I wanted to get on the Morgantown card that Visoki and Mason are on and Tim are on, and I wanted to get on that, but it didn't end up working out. So I told him, yeah, I'll come to Kentucky and fight Sheldon. But I watched all his fights, you know, the ones that are on YouTube. He comes to fight, and he's gonna come to knock me out, and that excites me, and I want to fight him. And yeah, I'm just excited for it. I'm ready for it. He's a little younger than me. He's got a little more cage experience than me. But I think you know, even if it's in the cage or not, I think my experience as a competitor goes a long way. You know, wrestling in big matches for a long time, wrestling in NCAA finals, NCAA semifinals, like that's a big deal. And dealing with those nerves, and dealing with that moment and being able to deliver on that moment is a big deal. And I feel like the cage experience is one thing, but you know, one of his fights lasted like 30 seconds, and then another fight was pretty short too. So he hasn't really went like that long in the cage, you know what I mean? Um, but he looks like a striker. He subbed one guy with the arm triangle, I think, but he looks like he comes to fight. He's gonna come try to knock me out. I'm gonna do the same. And it looks like we're both gonna try to finish the fight. So tune in. Tune
Yeah,
in.
it's exactly the type of matchup you want. I realize that I've seen him fight in West Virginia, where amateurs are allowed to strike to the ground. I don't believe elbows, but punches. Do you know what the rule set is in Kentucky? Or is there ground and pound, and what strikes are legal or not legal in your fight versus Sheldon?
Yeah, we got everything except elbows.
Okay.
So got the whole bag. Everything but elbows.
So that also means head kick standing up, knees standing up, everything, literally everything but elbows. Okay, gotcha. So on the ground, it's going to really allow, which makes sense. I mean, I think it's smart to have some things limited in amateur. I know Virginia, which is just kind of our neighbor, their amateur rules are their pro rules. I personally don't think that's the best idea when you've got people brand new to it. There's just a lot to deal with, but it certainly is nice for you to have a more of a well-rounded skill set and rule set. So really very exciting. With your wrestling background and what you just saw Sniper Siebert do, which involved standing strikes both at distance and a flying jumping knee, as well as ground and pound. Given the fact that most of that is all of that is legal in Kentucky, do you feel like you're going to be able to hit your flow state? Because I know your first fight, I believe, was under Pennsylvania rules, if I'm right, and there's limitations there. So, do you kind of like a more free flow state? And if you're going to make a prediction, what's your prediction against Sheldon? I know you've already said that it's going to be a real war.
Um, I think with the flow state thing, I think even though the rules handicapped me in my last fight, I think I still was able to like get in that flow state. I'm able to adapt. I've always been good at adapting to things. You know, I can adapt. You know,
Mhm.
I can move around. I can be flexible. So with all the rules in it, you know, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to show all my tools. Obviously except elbows, but
Right.
I'm excited to show you know what I have. And I think for a prediction, I think it's going to be a good fight, and I think he's going to come ready to fight. So am I, and I think I'm going to put him away in the second round. Um, I don't know if that's going to be a submission or if that's going to be a knockout or what it's going to be yet, or you know what the deal is. But you know, I don't see the fight moving past the second round, and You know, all respect to Sheldon, you know, for taking the fight. You know, no disrespect to him. You know, a lot of people said no to this fight. A lot of people said no to this fight. So, you know, that shows me something from him, but I'm coming to finish him. Um, on March 9th, I'm coming to finish him.
I appreciate you making the prediction, and obviously great respect to Sheldon. Sheldon has only fought for New Line, so he's one of their loyal fighters, a guy that kind of fights for them exclusively or primarily. So I think it's great, right? Without, and this is one thing about MMA, without an opponent signing on the line, whether they talk trash or don't talk trash, doesn't matter. Without an opponent signing on the line, you can't fight. I know you had a disappointing situation where you've had a couple fights fall through that were going to be your debut, probably even more. Topology lists two. I know of one personally being involved in 247, but the reality is that if an opponent is unable, unwilling, whatever happens to fight you, then you don't get that experience. You don't get that fight. That's one thing that I think Lucas, who's incredible on the mic, who's incredible on the business side, who's incredible as a fighter, also recognizes, and he said this is no secret, that you've got to give people reasons, one, to want to fight you, and two, also to want to watch you fight. So building that up goes a long way. And somebody like Sheldon, who's already kind of developed a fan base, I believe, for New Line Cagefighting, he's one of their guys that's fought already for them 4 times. That's what it takes. And if it takes you going to Kentucky to get a fight because other people maybe avoid due to your wrestling background and all that, that's what it takes for you to advance forward too. So you're coached by the best. You've got a championship mindset. You're a national champ now. You won. What year did you win national title? Are you still the reigning, or has it been replaced at this point? Because I think you're
That was 2021.
2021. Okay, so you're the former. Because I didn't want to say in the beginning. So you're officially the former. I didn't
I'm
realize
still the reigning to me, though, as
you're the reigning to be.
far as
Okay.
I'm concerned.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll just say a national, a Division II national champ. That's good enough there. But I appreciate you coming on 6 days out. Best skills to you for New Line Cagefighting 22, March 9th over there in Kentucky for Sheldon Starcher. Really appreciate you coming on the show. This is Luke Payson. We've been talking to the national Division II national champion, the Martian. No, it's the middle name, Luke the Martian Martin. Thanks so much for coming on the show, champ. I hope to have you on right after to talk about how the fight goes.
Yes, thank you for having me on again, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk again after the fight.
Best skills, champ. Anytime. You take care.
Yes, thank you. You too.
You got it.